Well, hello and welcome to the weekly Books Crypto Club catch-up over virtual coffee, where members of the Crypto Club who used to meet in Starbucks on a Sunday evening and now meet via Zoom, where we have a quick catch-up for 30 minutes, talk about what's going on in the crypto world and probably the world in a wider context as well. So let's see who joins us today. James, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, Gary.
Hey, how's it going? You okay?
Yeah, not bad at all, thanks, mate.
No, you look a little different at the moment. So what's going on?
I know. Oh, I think I'm muted now. Yes, yeah. Well, normally we've got to, we've got to be clean shaven for the respirators, and I've had a week's leave, so I was like, sod it, go for it.
Okay. And we've
How
got.
are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. We've got Ant joining us as well, who's coming with a different name today, by the look of it.
Yeah, it's because I was on with the family earlier, so it's my wife and myself, Sarah and Ant.
Okay.
There you go.
Cool. So how's everyone handling lockdown? Okay.
Oh, not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Get my headphones in.
Yeah. This is cool, Ant, because it means I can now look at your whiteboard to see how your project's going on.
No, that's from a project, a while back. But we do still some of that stuff. So my company, education, knowledge, collaboration, relationship management, engagement, and blockchain. So
cool.
Just and then that stuff there is more kind of DIY stuff that I've just put on the board. And then we have my wife's gardening calendar. It's
quite clever. I like it where everyone's developing different backgrounds for how they're set up. I was on a call the other day with somebody, and I thought they were in their living room, and it was actually a virtual background of a nice living room. And he said, "Oh, it's actually it's actual virtual background to make it look as though it's my room, because my real room's kind of a mess, kind of thing." So everyone's adapting in that. So everyone been looking at what's been going on in the crypto world this week?
Oh yes. Well, yes, I see it every single day, and we try and do, our own research. So it's been really interesting. I think the central bank digital currencies and the discussion around there, people are starting to come around to it. ETH2 looks very, very interesting, and seems to be ETH2 platform.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yeah, moving to proof of stake. That's starting to look quite nice, and people are very interested. There was a write-up that said for the first people staking those, 32 ETH on new nodes for ETH2, they can expect something like 15 to 17% interest from staking. So that's a huge amount. Didn't expect that, but then of course that's going to fall over time as more people stake ETH. But we're really starting to see Ethereum being possibly the underpinning of some of this new DeFi space and financial transactions, and even banks are starting to have tendrils going into DeFi to improve their reconciliation and stuff. So yeah, interesting stuff happening. And then the halvening in about 10 days.
well, I think it's in 8 days. I think it's a week on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just over a week, so that'll be interesting. But the whole DeFi space is interesting. I was on a call with some people the other day, looking at the rapid growth of DeFi, and the thing I'm finding interesting about it is, as you say, some of the traditional incumbents trying to move into this space, which in theory is impossible. It's decentralized finance, and they're trying to re-centralize it again. Yeah. We're kind of going around in circles in some ways. That you're seeing where a lot of the major blockchain protocols aren't actually blockchains, and a load of the DeFi platforms aren't actually DeFi. So I think it's all marketing type stuff. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's all marketing language, isn't it? But I'm seeing a lot of progress in that area, and in fact, some companies are now being set up to have one kind of leg in the traditional finance world and one leg in the crypto world. And if they can get some of those, regulatory agreements from various different, US states or various different other countries, then they're starting to look quite good. I was looking into.
That really does. I mean, one of my friends is involved in Bank of Ireland, and they've been talking at a very high level of this. Of that, it was described as dip toe in water. But as you say, if it's a position where they do dip their toe in water in terms of with these companies, and in a very small way, the regulatory bodies are going to be a lot more interested in kind of a big name behind it rather than kind of just something that's just been created. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point on that. Sorry, Jan, you're going to say.
No. Other things I'm seeing. There's Fidelity and Galaxy International that are continuing to soak up a lot of the the Bitcoin, and now getting into Ethereum futures, which is very interesting. From the figures that I've seen, institutions are increasing their interest in this area, especially to get a kind of a rate of return now. So, but it's starting to look, I think people are starting to come around to crypto. So yeah.
Okay.
Have you just fallen off your chair, Gary?
No, it was just I was grabbing my coffee, and my headphone socket kind of came out a little bit. So I've just gone onto the laptop speakers for a few minutes.
Because when you have your headphones on like this, you got beautiful beach either side of you, but within your headphones you can still see your background.
Well, it's kind of cool because it's a bit max headroomy. I was actually thinking of getting a proper max headroom virtual background at some point, which would be kind of quite good on there. Because if I move my head around, this is the thing you discover with green screens and with these virtual backgrounds as well, is that you can do stuff like you can see my hand now, but I can sometimes make it disappear like that type thing, and then I can make me disappear as well. It's like
brilliant.
Confusing. Yeah. But the whole DeFi space is interesting, fascinating as well. I was on a conference event a couple of days ago. I think it's Friday, which went from 5:30 until 9:30. So it's like a 4-hour session. It was really interesting because I had a mixture of people like Brock Pierce, who's always entertaining, and Tim Draper. And Tim Draper, I've got a lot of time for because he's one of the traditional guys.
Wow.
Who knows what he's talking about and knows the crypto space as well. And I think he made a comment, and it's a comment that also came out in, I don't know if you've seen the short film that New Kids on the Blockchain have just released. I'll share the link via the group later. It's basically, it's a history of kind of the crypto hype and the ICO hype that happened between 2016 and 2018 and what happened to the prices and everything. And someone in that came up with a really interesting point about the institutions. They said, you're talking now in crypto about, the institutions are beginning to move into this space. He said, that's weird because usually the institutions are the first ones into this space, and then they allow others into it. And this is kind of a role reversal, which is very unusual.
Oh.
But I'll share the link with the group because it's about an hour and 10 minutes long, and it starts off talking about Lambos, when Moon, all this kind of stuff, and then how everyone was getting really, really excited, and then how the market kind of went boom.
Yeah. From some of the figures that I'm seeing, when we had that massive market correction with global liquidity being an issue and everything tumbled, some of the measures showed that it was some of the larger hands that were dumping, especially when you've got some quite a lot maybe tied up on BitMEX or something with what is it where you multiply you compound your gains. I forgot the term of it because I don't particularly. I'm not really interested in that. But a lot of people got liquidated when the price dropped, and that was mainly big bag holders.
Margin calls, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, with all the margin calls, and the leveraging that they had. So the general consumers kept hold of a lot of their wallet amounts, and you can see this because you can see which wallets have the amounts in. It was the larger amounts that were selling. So it's always been kind of a bit of a retail phenomenon at the moment, and there are some big corporations, tentatively coming in. I said Galaxy and Fidelity, very much so. But the others are now looking at the amount they're generating, and whilst it's small beans compared to the large overall, financial market, it is starting to prick some ears up. So we can but hope. And then the halvening, I don't think. Well, let's say it's definitely not priced in, because there's a guarantee that even if people have just bought in the last week or two, they don't understand the huge complexities of all of these cryptocurrencies, and there's bound to be people that have not priced it in, and definitely the institutions who aren't here haven't priced it in. So
go on, James.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, actually. That was the main thing that today was going to be with the halvening. Is it something that's priced in? Because exactly that is that I'm sort of thinking, well, it's known about, but actually that's a really good point you make. I think that's fascinating, because yes, as you say, if you're new to the crypto space, and you see it going up or whatever, and you go, oh, I'm going to try this, you're not going to know really the ins and outs. It takes a very, very long time. I mean, it took me a good year to sort of start actually getting it, as it were. So that's a great thought, which I didn't have at all. That's really helpful.
I think it's a first point that new people coming into it won't know about it, but I think that the actual value of what they're putting in is relatively small compared to people who've been in this space for years and years. They know exactly what's going on, and it's always the thing that what is it, you buy on the rumor and sell on the news. And I think it's similar with this, that I actually do think that it's all priced in now, because there are enough people with enough major holdings and enough prior experience, and they've all done what we've been doing. They've checked the graphs of what happens every time there's a halving. Well, it goes up. What happens the next one? It goes up. What happens? It goes up. So this may simply repeat history, and as always, after the halving, the price goes up. Or this time round, it might be time to break that cycle, because enough people had anticipated that, and this time around they're going to dump it, and there's going to be some people who kind of suffer. So we'll see. No one knows.
Well, we normally see a bit of minor capitulation from those miners that aren't as efficient, and so as soon as you get the halvening event, there's going to be a lot of miners who are very inefficient, that it's just not profitable. And so they will start to sell their Bitcoin, and they will start to sell their mining equipment to, small other outfits. And if you have a look at the previous halvenings, it kind of goes down a little bit where these miners capitulate. And there's possibly kind of a bit of selling into the market, because there could be a bit of frothiness there, but then it picks up due to that kind of supply demand curve. If you're going to cut the supply by half, you need the demand to double to stay at the same price. And the fact that we're
Actually, no,
I
you're
think
not.
that's right.
No,
is that right?
If the supply halves,
right.
If the supply halves, you need the demand to halve.
Yes, actually, sorry, yeah. So the demand should halve to stay at the same price.
Yeah.
So we know that demand is not waning, but we know that the supply is going to cut in half. In fact, we could say that demand is increasing.
Yeah. So in theory, what would happen is that if you halve supply and you don't halve demand, then effectively you've got a double disparity, a doubling disparity. So it should cause a price increase, unless you throw in price elasticity, which you can't have in crypto. So yeah,
but even Satoshi wrote about this on the Cypherpunks mailing list, that these halvenings help with the speculation. The speculation helps with people getting in and trying to understand it, and that lifts the price, and it kind of brings people in. And yes, it's a bit of kind of FOMO and greed and speculation, but at least it brings some people into the fold who are that way inclined, and those that stay then tend to realize what an amazing technology this is.
Yep. It's certainly going to be interesting the next few weeks to see what happens with the price. And then, as you say, with Ethereum and DeFi certainly gaining traction this year, I think the whole decentralized finance piece, ETH 2.0, they're going to be some of the major things that are happening this year. And that's going to be interesting to see what that then does to Ethereum's price at last. Because Ethereum is a highly utilized platform, and yet the price doesn't reflect that, which in some ways is correct. But
I don't think that's a surprise if it's not reflecting the value. We've got Bitcoin that doesn't reflect the new kind of Plan B model. That is probably one of the best models out there for looking at the price of Bitcoin relative to the halvening periods. And look at the stock market. There's coronavirus issues with liquidity, with getting the bailouts to the right businesses, with businesses not being able to cope, especially with the number of people that might be accessing their product and service. But yet the stock market is back to nearly all-time highs. It's not a reflection on reality at all. It's very difficult to get a reflection on reality at the moment.
Well, this is the whole thing. If you'd have been asked 12 months ago to come up with a hypothetical scenario where you've got a pandemic around the world, which has caused a massive lockdown, a massive decrease in the economy, total obliteration of travel, trade, tourism, cutting down of supply chains, all that kind of thing. And then you said, with that scenario, what's the stock market going to do? And what's oil going to do? And what's gold going to do? And you're going to go, well, the stock market's going to absolutely tank because all these businesses are going to disappear out of business. Oil is going to be quite a safe thing because that's still coming out. That's supported by OPEC and everything. And gold's going to go up. Well, sure.
Oil went negative though, didn't it? Well, everyone thinks crypto is going to zero. Oil says, "Hold my beer, I'm going negative."
Exactly. For oil to go negative, I spent 4 or 5 years working for a commodities trading company, and we used to do stuff like if there's what's known as a contango market, which is where your spot price for the oil is lower than what the futures price is for the oil. Whatever that gap is, if it's say a $10 gap over 3 months, as long as you can store a barrel of oil for less than $10, you've locked in profit. So we used to charter oil tankers and refineries and facilities, and whenever the price was low, we'd fill these things up and everything. Our calculations would not take into account negative numbers because that's an alien concept. That's literally being paid to take delivery of something because people haven't got the storage for it. So that's off the scale.
Well, it breaks some supply chains, going negative, and it breaks the software sometimes in certain organisations. When I think Denmark had, I think they still got negative interest rates on mortgages. Okay, yes, it's linked to bonds. We couldn't have that in our country, but they had to continue the mortgage, but just give a rebate back because the system couldn't handle negative.
Yep.
And it just seems crazy at the moment that we've got still high stock market prices when we have no idea of the profit to earning ratio of what these companies are going to be in a year's time.
Yeah.
So of course a second peak. So I'm a clinician. That's my job, and the second peak is absolutely possible, and it's not only once we all start mingling again and do our own thing, up it goes. The viruses don't get the memo that it's all finished, and absolutely. I mean, travel wise, if suddenly these big airlines go under as well, we're not even going to be able to travel even if we want to. So it's going to change everything. And I'm actually with you. I'm really surprised that the markets are doing what they're doing. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And of course, in terms of with Bitcoin and with gold, as soon as this started happening, I sort of said to my wife, "Oh well, yeah, Bitcoin will do well, because it should, because it's we're all told, oh, that's what happens in times of crisis,
And then,
people start Bitcoin, yeah." So it's one of these mad things that I'm starting to get to the conclusion that everybody's allegedly an expert, but actually nobody knows what the hell's happening.
Oh well, yeah, that's definitely right. The way that I viewed, March the 12th dump was, it was just a global liquidity crisis, and everybody rushing to, what's easiest to sell in a liquidity crisis, and what's easier to sell? Digital currency, rather than something wrapped up in stock, shares, bonds, or something that you've got to talk to a couple of middlemen to actually get your money. So obviously, in a global scale, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all cryptocurrencies are going to be affected. But I think we're starting to see it decouple. Gold and Bitcoin decouple from the stock market, and that's our hope for the next few weeks.
yeah. Well, certainly gold is behaving as you would expect it to. You look at the prices, and it's going up, which is what you expect. You always get gold as a safe haven, a place of refuge when there's uncertainty in the world. Crypto, as you say, all the so-called experts were saying, oh, it's the alternative safe haven, it's going to people flock to. That has not happened. Everyone's gone, should I put in gold or should I put in crypto? Gold. Yeah, and it seems to have gone there. Whether that will carry on, this is where, as you say, that the sudden drop that happened around about 12th of March, I actually wonder if that was a liquidity issue for some of the miners who were thinking about exiting before the halvening, and then have realized, actually, we need to dump this stuff because loads of other people are about to dump as well, because they know it's about to be unprofitable for a while. And they were just liquidating. So, well, it's like I've said before now, when people have said to me, what caused this price to do this? It's like, you know what? There was this butterfly, and it was somewhere in the Amazon, and it flapped its wings, and that's what happened. It's as much chance as anything else.
Yeah, but when you've got a global payments network like Bitcoin, a global pandemic which affects global liquidity, of course it's going to affect Bitcoin. But if you have a look at country by country, if you have local issues or local government issues, then Bitcoin won't care. It will continue marching on, producing blocks every 10 minutes. So, you've got to look at this from a perspective that it's a global payment system. And if something were to happen globally, of course it would be affected. In all other circumstances, of course it won't.
That's why it's worth watching South America, the likes of Venezuela, where Venezuela seems to be going to a crypto world, whether it's Litecoin, Dash, or Bitcoin. It does seem to be that they're already making that move because they just don't trust their own government's back currency, and that's no surprise.
Lebanon, they're firebombing the banks, aren't they, at the moment, because the banks aren't giving them their money. And then in Ghana, they're rejoicing in the street with a coffin, and their local currency is pasted on the coffin. They're celebrating that their currency is dead. So I think we're going to have some really interesting situations. We've got the US dollar as the main kind of currency around the world is being inflated out of proportion, and all the others are being hurt by it because they're normally US dollar pegged. Let's see where this goes. Bitcoin solves this.
Well, this is where something like renminbi or the yuan or this CBDC that China are looking at might actually start faring up as an alternative to the dollar as like a reserve currency in some way. I was chatting to a couple of people about that the other day, because the Chinese government are still doing their testing on a digital currency in some way, whether that's crypto or it's just digital, I don't know. But yeah,
I think it'll have some crypto elements, but they want to bring in smart contracts so that they can program money. They want to, the Chinese are wanting to stop the market share of Weibo and WeChat, because of course you use kind of a synthetic digital renminbi, within that app. And so
most payments are through WeChat anyway now, aren't they, in China? Well, it's interesting you're saying about programmable money. I was on a call a few weeks ago with Bank of England, where they were reviewing, they've done a document around central bank digital currency for the UK. And it was interesting that they said, well, we probably wouldn't do a blockchain-based solution or even necessarily a digital ledger-based solution, but we might do something that incorporates features of those kind of things. And one of the things that they mentioned was smart contracts. And what was really interesting was that the next day, I was on a call with the all-party parliamentary group on blockchain, and they were doing their review on identity and all stuff on the blockchain. I said, oh, this is kind of interesting. I actually posed the question to them. If you've suddenly got programmable money that is, you know, it's on your mobile phone, it's linked to your identity, what you've then got is a government that can control whether you can use that money in the way you want to use it. Which, when you go back to the Chinese scenario, where they're doing things like their social ranking index as to where you can live, whether you can travel, what education you get, how scary is that, that you think you've got, you know, 20,000 renminbi on this mobile phone, but suddenly it's 2,000 renminbi because you were spotted speaking to a neighbor who's got affiliations with some particular group, or you didn't empty your bin out last night or something. That's quite horrific. You know,
government digital currencies, I do wonder whether they're not even going to get off the ground, because a government isn't exactly best of IT. And your point taken, it does seem as if, you know, all governments are trying to use the digital fiat as another way of controlling what happens. And I can see, even if one gets off the ground, you're going to have incredible issues with regards to, you know, in what denomination do you settle a transaction? And if it's settled in my digital dollar or your digital renminbi, who gets the tax? You know, and how do you sort that out? And if you want a digital fiat currency to help with spreading, you know, reducing the US dollar hegemony, which is exactly what the Chinese are trying to do, you've got to actually plaster it all out there and allow it to be traded freely. Yeah, and so the fact that they're going to, you know, crack down on knowing exactly where all those transactions are, it's going to butt heads with, you know, a public digital DeFi space, and what's going to be more efficient. And then, and my last point would be that, okay, you get the US dollar digitally on your phone that's controlled by the US government, and you want to send $2,000 to your aunt in Afghanistan. Do you think they're going to allow that? So it's going to open up a whole ream of issues that are going to highlight the fact that we have no privacy anymore.
And particularly tax. I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it? I mean, how on earth do governments get together and start actually, you know, sucking tax back from that? Is not going to happen. I mean, it's going to be seen as too much of a risk, and I can see that as digital currency usage increases, and I think actually it's probably going to be the next generation. I can see my children just using it, you know, oh, you owe me this, boom, I text, you know, they're already getting almost into that situation now of texting each other money and this sort of thing. As it goes up and as that use goes up, then, you know, I think then governments are going to push back and push back and push back. And that is all because suddenly the taxation issue is going to be difficult. The traceability is going to be difficult. It's, yeah.
So that's where the technology does have some interesting features. So if your money is now programmable money, so rather than it just being an entry on a ledger, it's actually an executable program saying how much it's worth and who owns it, you can actually encode within it taxation. So you could actually have it that, you know, this digital dollar, when I send it to Ants, that it automatically deducts 1.5%, which goes to another account. a little bit like you pay a transaction fee. It could be that every transaction you do has a fee, which is tax. And actually,
that wouldn't get adoption, though. That will not get any adoption.
But it in some ways it may do, because it actually makes taxation easier. Because at the moment we pay income tax on money that we earn, we pay VAT on goods and services that we buy, we pay capital gains tax on anything that increases in value, we pay tax all over the place. Well, if that was all automated and we didn't have to do a tax return each year because it's just automatically taken out, I think a lot of people would be happy with that. I agree the libertarians would be absolutely frothing at the mouth over it. But in some ways, that kind of makes it easier for people. So
yeah, but it's still going to be centrally controlled tax, isn't it? Where they can just, at a moment's notice, oh, the economy is not doing too well, it's tanking, right? Let's turn that tax, up.
You're right, and that's the one thing that people say. What is the unique thing about Bitcoin or crypto? And everyone talks about, oh well, it's a store of value. Well, actually, with the price volatility, it isn't. Okay, it's a means of exchange. Well, again, as it's got the volatility, it isn't. You go through all these things, and actually, it doesn't actually have any of the attributes that anyone claims, except for one, which is of being censorship resistant. And that's the thing, that it's the one thing that if you own crypto, the government can't suddenly haircut it and take 20% of it. Whereas a government-run digital currency, they could, and that would be the kind of risk. So, yeah,
exactly.
Guys,
it's unconfiscatability that falls underneath that. Yeah,
exactly right. Chaps, I just had a message off Zoom to say that our time is running out. Because despite me paying Zoom over a week ago now for my upgrade to my Pro membership, which gives me unlimited time, which they managed to process the payments within 10 seconds, and they still haven't managed to process the upgrade to the bit of software in 8 days.
They tell you it's 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's probably less than that. But we're going to have to finish off for today because we're going to be throwing off. But thank you, both of you, coming on board today.
It's really, really interesting. As particularly for me, as I say, the halving thing was definitely the thing that I wanted to bring to the party, and you kindly mentioned it and talked about it. So thank you so much. So I've really got something from it. So thanks, guys.
No problem. So guys, have a good day. Have a good week. As I always close off with these things now go and wash your hands.
Okay.
Will do.
Bye-bye.
Stay healthy.
Take care, guys.
Cheers. Bye.